Hi, diddly ho, welcome back to a brand new episode of Sam Talks Nerdy. I hope you're doing well out there today, staying happy, being well, just kicking ass, taking names, dominating life. It's a bit of a different episode this week because this is both a podcast and a YouTube video. I'm going to try and do some more YouTube videos as well as putting the audios of those videos on my podcast. So you have a choice of a video or of an audio. We are nearing the end of my Across Spider-Verse 101 series. So far we have talked about Spider-Man 2099, Jessica Drew, Spider-Punk, Spider-Man India, and this week we'll be talking about Ben Reilly, a character with a history that will make you go cross-eyed. Either you will go cross-eyed or you will get a nosebleed because his history is both confusing and a bit controversial. Let's get into it. So, who is Ben Reilly? Well, to put simply, he is an exact clone of Peter Parker, created by Miles Warren, aka the Jackal. But why did Miles Warren create a clone of Peter Parker? Well, long story short, in the comics, Miles Warren was in love with Gwen Stacy, and when she died, he tried to make a clone of her. But his lab assistant found out, and he accidentally killed his assistant. And this made him go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs to where he thought that someone else did the crime, and thus he would create the identity of the Jackal. And as the Jackal, he would find out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and thus want to create a clone of him because he came to realize that he played a part in Gwen Stacy's death, and he wanted to get some revenge. After he created the perfect clone of Peter Parker, he would pit it against the real Peter Parker. During the battle, they would both get knocked out by an explosion, and when they're both knocked out, the Jackal would inject the one he thought was the real Peter Parker with a drug that would kill him. Come to find out, he injected the clone. Or did he? Yeah, it's a whole thing with, like, was it the clone he killed or was it Peter Parker killed? Like, I just don't think about it. Trust me. After that attempt, he would create another clone named Ben Reilly, who named himself after Uncle Ben and Aunt May, her middle name being Reilly. And when he found out that he was in fact a clone, he decided to go travel the Earth for a few years, about 5, occasionally meeting another clone named Kane. Eventually, he would settle down in Salt Lake City and become a science professor, as well as meet his love interest, Jenny Godby, who was actually a fugitive on the run from murdering her father, who was an abuser. Sadly, this would end in tragedy when Janine would kill herself because she just couldn't live with the guilt of killing her father. After Kane killed a corrupt police officer, Ben would get blamed and have to go on the run once again. But he would return to New York after he heard that Aunt May was sick and encounter Peter Parker, who was a little on edge due to a string of psychological attacks. They would fight, but after this, they would come to end on good terms and become fast friends, and it would be at this point that Ben will become the Scarlet Spider. After that, he would encounter Venom and beat him with some pretty relative ease. This is because his spider sense was not affected by the symbiote. But he would then learn that Venom and Spider-Man struck a deal, and he wasn't really a big fan of that. And then he would join the New Warriors, where he wouldn't really be fully accepted because he just refused to take off his mask. But he would make friends with Firestar, but this would cause some tension between him and her boyfriend Justice. And then when the Jackal resurfaced, he would team up with Spider-Man to take him down. And it would be here that it is revealed that Ben is actually the real Peter Parker, and that Peter is the clone. You can see why this is very confusing. When the death of that corrupt police officer came back to light, Peter would get blamed for it and go to jail. So this would lead Ben to go out and find Kane to make him confess, which of course he would, and everything would work out happily. After this, Ben would stay in New York and get a job at a coffee shop and bleach his hair. I don't know why. I feel like there's a theory with that Spider-Man we saw in Into Spider-Verse. I don't know why, but there's something there. There's definitely something there. When Peter would temporarily lose his powers, he would give the mental Spider-Man over to Ben, which actually was some pretty good timing because at this time Ben had to drop the Scarlet Spider name because he was framed by Carolyn Trainer for going on a rampage. During this point in time, he will begin dating Jessica Carradine, the daughter of Uncle Ben's killer. And come to find out, she has a pretty deep hatred of Spider-Man to where she wants to sell incriminating photos of him to the Daily Bugle. But when she finds out that Ben is Spider-Man, she becomes very conflicted on outing him. But after Ben would confront her and explain how her father actually died, a heart attack, she would agree to keep the photos to herself, but she would leave Ben in New York. After this, Ben would become bonded to the Carnage symbiote after it was bonded to John Jameson and become Spider Carnage, but due to strong will, he would break free of the symbiote and the symbiote would go running back to Cletus Cassidy. After that, he would reunite with Janine Godby, who was still alive, and then encounter Kane once again. But he would convince Kane to turn himself in, and Janine would also turn herself in because she was tired of being on the run. After this, and this is just a cliff notes, Ben would battle Spider-Side, multiple Spider-Man rogues, team up with the X-Men to take on Mr. Sinister, who was using the Carnage symbiote, and take down something called the Great Gang, which is basically just a superhero fighting ring. Eventually, Norman Osborn would return and target both Ben and Peter. But while Peter went to go save Mary Jane, Osborn would kidnap Ben and reveal that he is actually the clone. And when I say he, I mean Ben. You can see why this is very confusing and frustrating. Anyways, during a battle on top of the Daily Bugle, Ben would get impaled by the Green Goblin's by the Green Goblin's glider. Try saying that 10 times fast. And he would die, well, turn to dust. But not to worry, because the Jackal would come in clutch and create another clone of Ben Reilly, after 26 failed attempts. On clone 27, he got it right, but the clone would turn on him and kill him, while also fixing the problem that killed the other clones. But here's the kicker. This Ben Reilly will take up the mantle of the Jackal and create his own pharmaceutical company where he would resurrect dead Spider-Man foes. Quite a turn of the tables, if you ask me. After Dr. Octopus would turn on Ben and kill all the clones he made, Ben would unleash a virus that would replace everyone on Earth with the clone. But he will be defeated by Spider-Man and seemingly die. After his brief stint as a villain, Ben would go back to being a hero after he moved to Las Vegas, where he would encounter Kane. The two would fight, but then form a truce with Kane would come to find out that Ben was trying to cure a girl, Abigail Mercury, the daughter of Cassandra Mercury, of a disease. Ben would successfully create and administer a cure to Abigail, but sadly it would kill her. And then a woman named Marlo Chandler, the Abomination of Death, would show up and kill Kane. And so, to bring them both back, Ben would offer himself to Death. But luckily, Death brought them both back either way. Ben would then go up against Cassandra's brother and rival, Silas Thorne, who was trying to follow her attempts to rebuild Las Vegas after the events of Secret Empire. Ben would then team up with Wong and the Midnight Suns and Daughters to take on Mephisto, who had taken over Las Vegas and now turned the people of Las Vegas and the Avengers into demons. Mephisto would even try to bargain with Ben and convince him that he could save his soul and Abigail's life. Ben would continue to try and cure Abigail, but keep getting zero results, until he came across a company called the Diagnosis Initiative and meet the owner, a man claiming to be the angel Gabriel, who offers to give Abigail some of his blood. However, Mephisto would return and try and trick Ben into giving Abigail the cure after she died, but would fail, and in return, Mephisto would trick Kane and Cassandra, Abigail's mother, into thinking Ben actually killed Abigail. And this all ends with them chasing down Ben and Kane gunning Ben down, but will be brought back by Abigail, who is an angel, except when Ben came back, he would be evil, stab Kane, and threaten him. And this leads us to Spider-Geddon, where Ben would team up with Superior Spider-Man only to get handed over to the Inheritors, where he would be fed off by the Inheritor named Genix, who would go insane after reliving all of Ben's deaths and resurrections. Ben will be resurrected by Superior Spider-Man, whose plan was to have Ben be captured the entire time. And due to Ben seemingly dying, this allowed him to have a brand new start. And so, he moved back to Las Vegas. But he would return to New York to help Iron Man defeat the android Korvac, who was trying to get the power cosmic. After that, he'd go on to work for the Hero Department at the Beyond Corporation as Spider-Man, and while at the Beyond Corporation, he would also release Jenny and Gabi from prison, and they start dating once again. Also, while at Beyond, he would go up against Peter Parker over the sole reason of Peter using the Spider-Man name, which apparently they trademarked. And so, this would leave Peter in the hospital, but he also would give Ben his consent to use the Spider-Man name. Next, Ben would then go up against Miles Morales over the same reason, but Ben would let Miles go over the fact that he didn't want to hurt a kid. Ben would eventually be handed secrets about the corporation from Dr. Octopus, and when the corporation found out about this, they tried to wipe his memory, but failed, and Ben would then go on to run the company. And so, Maxine Danger, head of the Hero Department of the Beyond Corporation, tried to convince Ben to try and take Peter Parker's memories so he can have his memories back. But when that failed, Maxine flooded the lower part of the Beyond Corporation, seemingly killing Ben. But Janine would still find Ben still alive but altered by the quantum-shifting polymers, which were used to flood those lower levels of the corporation, and going by the name Chasm, or Chasm. After this, he will begin stealing technology from the Beyond Corporation to build a teleporter to a place called Limbo, where he will regain his memories. And he will go with both Madeline Pryor and Janine, who was going by Howl's Eve at this point. But when they got there, the turns would table. So when Madeline got her memories back, she would turn against Ben and work with both the X-Men and Peter Parker to take him down. And so currently he is in a pretty nice cell in the Limbo Embassy in New York. And that is the end of Ben Reilly's story. For now. And that's it for this week's episode of Sam Talks Nerdy. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't get bit by a red spider. Don't get cloned by a supervillain. And I will see you next time. Peace out.